Thank you. Being asked back to my alma mater nearly 25 years after graduating has definitely led to some personal reflection and introspection. I have come to the conclusion that I am solidly in middle age. You know that point in life where you've maybe lived as many years as you will going forward? That point in life where selective bodily functions start to fade, such as my eyesight. So it's just as well we're not allowed notes for these TED Talks. I've also thought back to some comments my wiser older sister made to me a few years after I'd graduated from Grinnell and was struggling with how I was going to live up to the lofty goal of making the world a better place, which I'm sure most Grinnellians think of at least at some point in our lives. She said to me, "Christine, no one tells you how hard it is to be a regular person in life." Over the following 20 years, I have learned that happiness comes from following your own passions and defining your own successes. By all usual societal standards, I have had many successes. I am a two-time Olympian, Fulbright scholar, and physician at one of the most reputable clinical practices in California. Yet throughout these successes, I've also had internal struggles. At different points in my life that we consider those forks in the road, I've wondered, just because I can, doesn't mean I should, and had to follow the path that felt right for myself at the time. So I guess you could say my Olympic journey began during childhood, as so many do. I was a really active kid, participated in lots of school sports, and I was fascinated to watch the Olympics, sometimes even watching by myself when my family members were too busy. I followed my older sister and brother's footsteps into distance running, and although I was a talented freshman in cross country and track, I realized by my junior year in high school that I was not going to be the next Mary Decker I had watched compete in the 3,000 meter in the Olympics at the Los Angeles '84 Olympics. Nonetheless, I enjoyed my time here on the Grinnell cross country team, which formed such a significant part of my social networking. Instead of pursuing an elite athletic career during college, I focused on what makes so many Grinnell experiences amazing. I attended innumerable lectures on social and political problems in the Forum, which, by the way, used to be the center of campus life. I participated in debates about the world's and nation's most vexing social problems. I was an occasional member of the Grinnell Streaking Club, which tormented B&G crew through campus. And of course, I obtained a fabulous education. I learned to think and write critically. I did a semester study abroad in Nepal, all the while completing a Bachelor of Arts in Chemistry and completing my pre-medical school requirements. I suppose my first significant life fork came during my senior year at Grinnell. I was approached by one of my faculty mentors and encouraged to apply for a Rhodes Scholarship. While I was complimented by the acknowledgement, I had to be honest, I really had no interest studying in Oxford the year after graduation. Instead, like so many Grinnell seniors, I viewed the Thomas J. Watson Fellowship as the ultimate prize because it allowed unrestricted funds to do independent study in a developing nation such as Nepal, where I wanted to return and explore further some of the social and healthcare discrepancies I had witnessed during my semester study abroad. Almost on a whim, I also applied for a Fulbright Fellowship. See, to that point, the Fulbright Committee had never selected a non-PhD candidate for the year in Nepal. I remember my spring semester, my senior year, great disappointment when I was not awarded the Watson Fellowship. And then the incredible elation a few weeks later when I was awarded the Fulbright Fellowship after the committee decided to veer from its usual practices. That following year in Nepal was an incredible experience. It was also a very difficult year. After spending 10 months studying the beliefs, practices of caregivers of children with diarrheal disease, I realized Nepal didn't need more physicians. It really needed engineering, but more importantly, needed the political willpower to provide a clean water source for its people. And Nepal certainly did not need a self-proclaimed medical anthropologist with a lot more to learn about public health and international policy. So my Olympic journey picked up at an unusual time in life after I had started medical school at Stanford University. My junior high basketball knee injury caught up with me about a decade later, and I was no longer comfortable running for my much-needed exercise. A classmate of mine was on the Stanford road cycling team, which is a club sport and thus available for graduate students to participate in. She encouraged me to come out, and by the end of my first season competing, I realized I was a far more talented road cyclist than I have ever been distance runner. My competitive progression in road cycling was accelerated by living in that Stanford community where there are so many Olympians, including 2 US women who qualified for and competed in the Sydney Olympics in 2000, a mere 2 years after I had started my own cycling journey. One of those women became my professional team director a few years later. She sat down with me the fall of 2003 and helped me focus my goal of qualifying for the 2004 Olympics. See, in road cycling, for the Olympics, there are 2 events. The road race, which requires teamwork, although individual medalists are awarded, and the individual time trial. In 2004, the selection for the United States team of 3 women for the road race, and only 2 of those would get to do the time trial. The selection criteria included 2 automatic nominations. One was for the winner of the National Time Trial Championships, and the other was for the winner of the National Road Race Championships. Since I was an outsider to the national team, and then the road race required teamwork, as I noted, I felt my chance of winning the road race was very slim, so I focused on winning the time trial championships. And in fact, 8 months later, I achieved my goal and won the National Time Trial Championships, which qualified me for the 2004 Olympic road team. It was definitely one of the happiest days of my life, as you can see on my expression in this photo. Then, the following 2 months were actually 2 of the most stressful in my life because I had to continue to prove myself to the national team coach and the selection committee in order to be nominated for one of those 2 start spots for the individual time trial, because ironically, winning the time trial championships only qualified me to be a member of one of the 3 women on the road team. The selection for the time trial was not made until we had arrived in the Olympic Village, a mere 3 days before our road race event, in which we were going to be teammates, and 5 days before the individual time trial event. Sadly, one of my most vivid memories of my 2004 Olympics was sitting under the shade tree outside the Olympic Village on the briefcase of one of the pro bono lawyers provided by US Olympic Committee to settle arbitration cases. You see, the 3rd teammate, who didn't get nominated for the time trial, felt she also was deserving and started an arbitration against the process. I did get to compete in the time trial in Athens and finished a surprising 4th place, which was actually a surprisingly good result for me since it was my first significant international time trial event. Yet somehow I felt like a failure, since the 3 other US representatives in the time trial achieved gold, silver, and bronze medals. 2004 was also a transitional year with respect to drug testing for doping methods among athletes. The following year, the US gold medalist Tyler Hamilton, who had been a teammate of Lance Armstrong's, had his gold medal stripped from him after it was discovered he had used new blood doping methods the summer of the 2004 Olympics. While the women's peloton is considered generally a cleaner group of riders, to an athlete in the Olympics finishing 4th place, there are still those unpleasant, nagging uncertainties. I continued racing through my fellowship training in rheumatology, and in 2006, I accomplished my goal of getting a bronze medal in the World Championships in Salzburg, Austria. That result essentially qualified me for the Beijing Olympic team for the United States, where I again played the team role in the road race and got to focus my individual goals in the individual time trial. In the time trial, this Olympic Games, I finished 5th place. Although I was actually closer to the bronze medalist on time this time, finishing 3 seconds behind the bronze medalist. Immediately after that event, one of the USA cycling officials commented to me, what could have been had I not also been completing my medical training through my cycling career. And I replied, I was quite happy with my balanced life. I wouldn't have done it any other way. But the truth is, I couldn't have afforded to do it any other way. You see, by continuing in medical training, I could continue to defer payment of my medical school loans, which had reached 6 figures by the time I had started bike racing. Women professional cyclists simply are barely paid a livable wage, let alone one that would allow me to start paying back my medical school loans. So was my cycling career a success? I guess for those outside the Olympic bubble, it was. But to a US athlete, there's definitely a sense that achieving a medal, particularly gold, is the only success. So the next significant life fork was the decision to leave academic medicine for clinical practice rheumatology. To that point, I had been progressing as expected, had an excellent faculty mentor, had earned a couple research grants and a couple peer-reviewed articles. But I had to be honest that I didn't wake up every morning wondering what scientific question I could ask next. And I didn't want to give up most of my clinical practice, which was the advice of my faculty mentors in order to have a successful research career. Although it was really difficult to tell my faculty mentor who had believed in me that I was leaving academic medicine, I had to remind myself my motto, just because I can doesn't mean I should, and follow the path that felt right at the time. Now 11 years into clinical practice, although I've had many memorable patients and can claim at least partial credit for saving a few lives, I still ask myself, am I doing enough for society at large? And am I reaching my potential? And what does that mean anyway? So I come back to my older sister's comments she made to me a few years after I had graduated from Grinnell. No one tells you how hard it is to be a regular person. What if we believed the journey was more important than the outcome? Even those, by usual societal standards, who seem to have an easier journey in life? need to discover what motivates them and answer for themselves the dilemma, just because I can doesn't mean I should. Because I believe success is defined by yourself and by following your own passions. So I wish for you all a wonderful life journey. And now I'll get back to my own midlife journey, one in which I'm not sure what will come. Thank you.